We begin today's recording by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are on. I am on Burrawang land. Where are you, Breezer?
I am on the land of the Djajarurrung people.
We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are tuning in today.
And wherever you're listening to the potty today, make sure you know whose land you're on. Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. If any of today's conversations have been triggering, please reach out to your local support centre in Australia. That is Lifeline 131114. Actually,
you've got
a can.
got the bottle.
I'm going to crack a bottle of Altina. Meso, what about you?
Cracked a can, Breezer. I'm on the Mat LeBlanc. Oh, I shouldn't say that, should I?
No.
It's LeBlanc. It's just such an Aussie thing to give something a nickname. We can't just give it.
What's the real name of it? LeBlanc.
It's LeBlanc.
A LeBlanc.
In a LeBlanc, and it's
which
beautiful. We love.
And I
what have you
got? I've got my lone bottle here of Altina in a rosé because the beautiful Christina from Altina is sending us some new stock to tuck into. So we're very excited for that. So we're just floating. I'm just floating around with this Lone Ranger at the moment, a bottle of Altina. But for our listeners,
just a quick side note. Actually, got a message from Anthony Hammond the other day, and he goes, just tried the new Altina alternate wines. My new name for alternate wine alternative. They are terrific. He loved it. Which is so cool. Yeah.
I can't wait to try the new flavours. They're actually in a shop in Bendigo, Zero Liquor in Strathhill. For any Bendigo listeners, you can get the new Altina flavours there. I should just get amongst it tonight and get a bottle. But they are giving our listeners, if you purchase Altina online, they are giving you a 10% discount code. What is that, Meso?
It's BFB10, which gets 10% off at www.altinadrinks.com.
How good. We love it. We love you, Altina. Thank you.
We really do. Thank you.
Meso.
Reza.
Do you want to know something?
Tell me.
I am I'd say 10% smarter than I was an hour ago.
True story.
The same.
Goodness, I love learning stuff, but I love learning stuff from the horses' mouths. And we've just been completely flooded with analogies.
Yep. Education.
We're so educated. And just, who have we had on, Breezer?
We have had Aaron and Rish from Non.
Yes.
They are a
alternative.
Is it alternative wine?
Yep. Yeah.
Not wine alternative.
Yep.
Yeah. As we learnt in the potty. Yeah. And wowee, I think our minds were both blown, weren't they, Meso?
Yeah. I know.
Amazing. The story behind Non, the reason behind Non, what they're doing with Non, just unbelievable. And I was already a fan of their product, likewise with you, Meso. I know you were too. But this has just given me a whole new appreciation, I think, and respect for what they're doing in the non-alcoholic industry and what they're doing for the industry as well.
Yeah. It's incredible, and it's just beautiful product, well thought out, flavours. It's real. There's chefs, there's a kitchen, there's, like Aaron says, you'll hear him talk about it. It's like he's bringing you this beautiful meal, but it's in a bottle.
Yeah.
The flavours are just so real, and it's with real products. There's no nasties.
And I'm a real sucker for finding out the story behind a brand. And Aaron shares his why, I suppose, and how the brand was. I suppose when the seed was planted for him, and it's a beautiful story.
Isn't
and
it?
Just makes me love the brand even more.
Same.
Besides them being an absolute cracking brand, the flavours are just out of this world. And I need to go and get some more non in my life.
Immediately. Me too. Cracking guys, really making some big waves in this area. So get amongst non, get some in your life, quick sticks. And otherwise, we're going to see you all at Pub with No Booze on the 29th of March. Get your tickets. By link in bio.
Link in bio, link in show notes. Get around at Peeps and let's get the boys in. Should we, Meso?
Let's hear it.
Bring them
in.
We've
got Aaron and Rish from Non. A big booze-free Bants with Buddies welcome to Aaron and Rish from Non. Welcome, boys. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
So good. How are you guys going?
We're good. We're very busy. Very busy.
Well,
things are kicking off in the States, and we've just opened up a whole can of worms of new challenges. But everything's good.
Well, you are super busy because we just spoke about that before you came on air. We've been trying to nail you guys down since July, since dry July last year. So
like a pregnancy, like we've been pregnant.
So here we are. So here we go, guys. So we just want to know, first question is, who are you and what's your career background to start with? Let's go.
So I'm Aaron. I'm the founder of Non. Previous to this, I was out and about. I was DJing in Melbourne around the traps. So I cut my teeth in hospitality that way. Die-hard foodie. Spent far too much money traveling around the world, dining out and researching restaurants and eating around. And prior to Non, I had a FMCG brand, which was a men's grooming brand. Some would call it a hipster brand for sure. And that's where I learned a lot about business and making products and all those sorts of things. And just from being out and around town and around the world with my wife, Miranda, she doesn't drink. I was getting the wine pairings, and she was getting the non-alc pairings at these degustation restaurants. And the kitchens were making these beautiful drinks in-house. And if the best restaurants in the world were trying to solve the problem themselves of what to put in the empty non-alcoholic wine glass with food, and not buying products off the shelf, then that's the solution. Fast forward to, having more of those types of drinks and beverages, and you couldn't buy them in a bottle. You had to have a $250, $300 plus meal, 3 hours, 10 courses, 15 courses, depending on what it was. And it wasn't accessible for everyone. So I was like, I need to go and make this. So that's how Non was born.
Incredible.
What year was that, Aaron?
The discovery was 2017 and 2018. And then I think it was 2019 we launched. So sort of pulled the trigger on it December 2018, the development, and then had it ready in about 3 to 4 months after lots of issues. And then flew around the country, hand-to-hand combat, selling to trying to get in with the best restaurants in the country. Some were a success, some were a complete failure, and then did the official launch in July 2019.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really quick. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Yeah.
I love the story behind that. I love that you found a problem and you've fixed that problem with your product.
Yeah, incredible.
Love that.
Well done.
Thank you.
Over to you, Rish.
Hey guys, good to see you again.
Yeah, me too.
So my background, I'm just like a through and through hospo person. I went to uni to study law, and when I was figuring out what I wanted to do next, I was in a West End nightclub in London, and I saw a bottle of Cristal on the menu, and I was 17, 18 years old, and I saw a bottle on the menu, and I said to the person, I was like, I think you've got the price wrong. I think you've accidentally put too many zeros on the end of this. And they were like, no, £10,000 for a bottle of Cristal. And this was in 2005 or whatever it was, right? So I was like, who the hell drinks that? And they said bankers and lawyers. And sometimes they'll have a few swigs and then they'll just tip the bottle into the ice bucket so no one else gets to drink it and they don't want to drink anymore. So I'm thinking, this is insane. And when I found out, when I studied law, I was thinking, these lawyers, they work 60 hours, 70 hours a week. And so they've got all this money, but they don't have any time. And when they do have the time, they go to these amazing bars, restaurants, nightclubs. So rather than going in to do the 70 hours a week, my angle to go and hang out in these places was by working in the drinks industry. So I thought, if I could just work and hang out with the restaurants and bars and nightclubs, then I get to go there and I get paid to go there rather than having to pay to be there. So I was just this, bright-eyed, young 20-something-year-old, started in the drinks industry, then ended up going into the luxury drinks industry. So I was hanging out in these kind of 5-star hotels and the best bars in the world. And then after doing that for a bit too long, my body started to go, hang on, you can't do this for this long. So I was asked to go on a survival expedition, and having come back from the survival expedition, I really wanted to leave the drinks industry fully. I was just like, I'm done with it. It was really fun, but I'm over it, because my body, my mind, I didn't want to do it anymore. At the time, that was 2016, CDIP had just launched. So when I got back into the UK, we knew the COO, and she just said, look, we've got a brand new team. They don't know anything. We're going to launch this category, launch this product. Could you do some key introductions for us in London? So went out, did some intros in London, and then carried on traveling, ended up in Australia. And they just turned around and said, look, if you're in Australia, can you help us out with Seedlit? So I did that for 2.5 years, and it was an amazing ride. And that's really what built the whole non-alc category. So then when I was looking for my next step and I met Aaron, I think the first thing that drew me to non was Aaron himself. Like, he's an amazing person, and the people are the people that you can be working with. So
where did you guys cross paths?
So I got a recommendation from a friend that Rish was looking to move somewhere else. And I was like, okay, and I jumped on it and flew up to Sydney and did the longest job interview that we did. I think I went for 12 hours. So, yeah. I
hadn't been drinking for like a month, and then we had a couple of margaritas, and then ended up in a gay bar in Oxford Street. It's like,
I've got the job.
Yeah, I was like, I think we're probably going to get on. So I just I met Aaron, and I thought, yeah, he's awesome. And then I thought about what problem Non was trying to solve, and it's a really unique proposition. So I thought, this is an exciting new challenge. It's not in the spirits world, it's in the wine world, and it's just a completely new proposition. So yeah, that's how I ended up where I am.
That's awesome. I do need to know though, Rish, did you ever get to taste that $10,000 drink?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You didn't dive into the ice bucket and start drinking it.
I have tried a £10,000 bottle of cognac and £10,000 bottle of whiskey, like a shot, like a nip. But
yeah,
no.
How was it? Was it £10,000 worth? Yeah,
I mean, it's history, right? It's your perception of it. It's like if you buy a designer label dress that Princess Diana wore, it's like, do you feel different? Yeah, of course you do. Princess Diana wore this dress.
Yep. Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Love that. I actually didn't know the background story of Non, so I love that. There's a real purpose behind it, and there's a real point of difference, I feel, with the whole food connection as well. Tell us about the drinks then. Tell us about how they came about. How did you come up with the flavours? Because there's some pretty wild flavours.
Yeah.
And they work.
Yeah. So in the early days, I was like, let's make a really interesting drink. So I had a chef help me out with the recipe development. I had a very clear idea on what they had to do, and it had to have body, viscosity, have a really good nose. I had a lot of experience in perfumery, I would say, because of the cosmetic side of things. And that's why the label looks like it does as well. So
hang on, what's the cosmetic link? Sorry, I missed that.
So I had a brand. I had a male grooming brand.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was actually working on a more, lifestyle type ESOP looking brand, I suppose is probably the easiest way to sum it up. And I was flying around the world trying to find a nose. So I didn't end up doing anything too differently, where I was like, okay, I just need someone to help me develop these recipes. So, we, until probably later on, were just working on these drinks, and then we actually realized why they work. And that is because wine has a fruit component, a tannin component, a salt component, and an acid component. And basically all of those things were present in the drink. We didn't know why they work so well. And then later on we figured out, they're like, oh, because of these elements, this is how they all come together. But then we weren't trying to mimic or mock anything. So what was always really important to me from the get-go is that I didn't want to give people a lesser experience, which they could have. Or if they could come into the category and have something, they want a Chardonnay just without the alcohol in it, it's pretty hard to find. Mm-hmm. So, and also if they've had an issue with alcohol whatsoever, we don't take you to an alcoholic moment. We take you just to this really interesting, beautiful, flavoursome moment. So while we're in the drinks business, we're in the flavour business, really. And that's why we have 4 chefs that make everything from starting in a 20-litre pot to now having a 7,000-litre tank. It's still exactly the same process. We've just bought bigger equipment along the way and designed the equipment custom to us. There's no way that we could possibly offload any of that to how other people would do it, where they buy things in drums from flavour houses and it goes to a packing facility and then they mix it all together and they throw some, weird sweetener in it, and then it's low-cal, sugar-free. We've never done that. We're just sticking with real stuff. So real sugar, real salt, real fruit, real teas, real verjus. So the verjus all comes from the Barossa Valley. It's made for us specially. It's a blend of Chardonnay and Sauvignon grapes. And we buy that the same as you would buy wine. So you pick it, you get your vintage, we say how much we need, and then we get an allocation made up. So this year's about 60,000 litres that we're buying of verjus. That's just the verjus, which takes up about, depending on what it is, somewhere between 20 to 40% of the drink. And it's also 3 times the price of wine. It's actually more expensive.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention that, Aaron. The first time I saw your product, obviously, what's a bottle retail at? $30. $30, yeah. So, and I looked at that price and I went, oh shit, that's pretty expensive. But immediately my brain went to go, it's a premium product. You're paying that for a premium product. So I bought the bottle. So yeah. I think the way you have positioned yourself in the market, you've positioned yourself well in that premium, level.
Yeah, for sure. And the ingredients are expensive. We'll talk about salted raspberry and chamomile, for example. There's a whole punnet of raspberries in there. That's $7, $8. You're talking about the verjus at 3 times the price of wine as a base. We've got 4 people's labour to go into it. We've still got to put it into a bottle with labels and everything as well. And plus, you could buy, if you get love tea or something like that, you could buy chamomile, 12 tea bags for $12 to $15, right? Think about the scale that we're doing these on. And, we're buying some of the most of these ingredients in the country at the moment. It's expensive. And the way that my kitchen, which is behind me over here, is my restaurant, and my dishes come out in liquid form in glass bottles. They don't come out on plates. And if you went to and got a main or something from a restaurant and it was $30 to $40 to $45, you wouldn't blink an eye, right? But drinks get treated differently. And we're doing all the exact same things as what the technicality is of a restaurant kitchen.
It's so funny. Can I just share a quick story? I was at the pub last night and I was like, I had a headache, so I just ordered a pint of soda water. It was $7. But I would balk at the servo paying $4 for a bottle of Mount Franklin. I'm like, $4? But at a pub, I'm like, oh yeah, $7, no worries. So that mentality is.
But even that's $7, and we're somewhere between $12 to $15, $16 a glass in restaurants, and it's $7 just for soda water. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, but people, non doesn't cost a lot of money. It's just worth a lot of money. It's different.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you package that up, that it's your kitchen and this is your main meal and you've brought out, it's not on a plate, it's in a bottle. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
I think when we started this whole thing, the whole category, the whole movement of seedlip, it became very apparent to those like that founding kind of crew who were doing this, that we weren't just in the drink business, that we had to change the culture. So even now, like 7 years later, I'm still having the same conversations that I was 7. 7 years is a long time, but we're having the same conversation about changing culture, and it's how we think about food and drinks. And when it comes to non-alcoholic, it's our perception, as we've been talking about. And I guess part of this is there's some jumping on the bandwagon. I think there's some brands who are just jumping on the bandwagon with cheaper to produce products, but they're charging $30 because craft products and brands like Non exist, and they're going, well, if they're charging $30, why don't we make something cheap and put a $30 label on it, right?
Yeah.
So it's becoming cloudy. It's really noisy. The whole category is really noisy, which is why we're really having to stick to our guns, and doing things like this is a great way for us to show the world that, yeah, you know, we have four chefs in a real kitchen, in the Michelin star standard kitchen, who are cooking all this, who is produce. Now, if you speak to any other, majority of other brands, ask them to show you their chefs in their kitchens, and then see what the response is.
Yeah.
Risha, those conversations that you're having, are they getting easier? Like you said, you've been having them for 7 years. Is an easy conversation to have now?
Or are you eye rolling?
Yeah, it's more like, I wouldn't say that. I guess they're more approachable, and they're happening more often. But you still get the kickback about, you know, why would I pay more? And I try and give it context, or I try to bring it to people in a way that they'll understand. So the easiest way for me to articulate this is a burger, right? Because the price of a burger is the price of a burger, right? If you think about a burger now, you might think a fast food joint. If you're thinking fast food joint, $6 or $7. So if you went to that fast food joint and you said to them, can I get a burger? And they said, yeah, that's $35. You're going to be like, hang on, that's not what I'm expecting here. And if that fast food joint said, well, the reason we're charging $35 is because there's a really nice restaurant next door and they charge $35 for their burger. We go, well, you're two different propositions. That's a really nice restaurant with really fresh ingredients and a chef making that. This is a fast food joint where it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There you go, $5, $6. So both of those things exist in the drinks world, but for some reason, consumers, or we marketeers, whatever we've done, we've basically just shut that out. We've just gone, that doesn't exist. In the drinks world, that doesn't exist. Non-alcoholic drinks should be cheap, they should be sugary, and they should be, that's it, not very good, essentially. So what Non's doing is coming and going, no. They don't have to be sweet, sugary crap and don't work well with your meal. That's a thing of the past. Non's going to completely change your perception. But if you want real ingredients made by chefs, it's going to cost a bit more, but your experience is going to be elevated. So why can I remember that $10,000 pound bottle of whiskey and cognac? Is because I know the story behind it. I know the time it takes to create that, and it's the craft, and I feel part of that history. So when you're drinking Non and it's part of your lifestyle, it's elevated, right?
And it does feel like that. It's a really classy, as you said, interesting, beautiful drink. And I love that we've opened up this conversation about how it started and where it's from. Like, I want more Non in my life immediately. And Aaron, we spoke off air as well about, because you guys are moderators. You guys didn't have an issue with alcohol, did you? I don't know. Well, not we know of. But what was the stat that you spoke about with people that drink non-alcoholic drinks? What was that stat that you were talking about?
So 70% of people that drink non-alcoholic products drink alcoholic products as well. So what does that stat say? It says that people want to have the same experience in the same social settings, drinking out of the same ritualistic vessels, and they just want flavour. Flavour is always going to win. And that's why shout out to Heaps Normal. That's why Heaps Normal is doing such a fantastic job, because they nailed the flavour.
Yeah.
And that is what's really important. And flavour and food, they go together, and that's what people want. And they don't want to feel like they're missing out, you know. And, you know, I'm sure there's been plenty of conversations on this podcast about the challenges of missing out and how your friendship groups change and all those sorts of things. They don't have to change, but you need to have something that is equal. And you have to be a member of the table that is equal. And that is what we try to present initially to you at the Builders Arms, is to have that moment and that experience. And that's what we're selling. We're selling an experience.
That was starting that
commercial guy in the room as well, you know, because if I'm not drinking, guess what? My mates don't care. I'm still splitting the bill, right? We're going 8 ways on this. We're going 10 ways on this. So if I'm out and I'm not drinking, or someone else, there's a few of us that I'm drinking, we're in our friendship circles, we're not the ones that be like, well, let's split the drinks and split the food. And, nah,
You know,
split it.
don't be that
That's how we go.
person.
It's easy. What comes around goes around, and be fine. But I tell you what, if I'm splitting the bill, I might as well get something really good.
Yeah.
I might as well get something that I really like and enjoy. You know, and I feel a bit sorry for you that you would drink, you know, well, if you're thirsty, drink water and soda water.
Yeah,
But,
I did have a headache.
yeah, but
That's
you
the
wouldn't-
reason behind it.
you don't go out, you don't think, oh, tonight I'm going to have, what I'm going to have for dinner? A bowl of plain white rice and a glass of water. Can't wait to go out for dinner. That's never happened, right? So when you go out and you think about dinner, you think, right, I'm going to go and get really nice food, think about the restaurant, what drinks you're going to have, or a cocktail or whatever it is. And yeah, you know, I'll re-emphasize what Aaron's just said. Shout out to Heaps Normal. Like I was drinking that, you know, last night. You know, I was out in trade. I'm not drinking, so have Heaps Normal.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like we were talking about off air that I've gone back to having 1 or 2 drinks here and there. And I find myself, when I am having a boozy drink, it's because if I'm out and there's no other choice on the menu that I want in the non-alcoholic space, I'll be like, well, I'll have a nice glass of red wine then. So because I want that flavour. I don't want a non-alcoholic beer that I don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it does come back to that flavour.
It does. And I found, like, I went to Yarra Botanica and I was so stoked to see your drinks on the menu there. And I ordered, I think I might have got 1 glass, and then I just ordered a whole bottle to myself and just I drank the whole bottle to myself. Just hooked in, and that's exciting. Like, I want to go somewhere, and I messaged you, Aaron, when I was in Sydney recently going, where are you? I want to go. I'll go to that restaurant because of that drink, because I know that I'm going to have this exciting experience and have that flavour and drink, rather than just going, trying to smuggle my AF drinks into venues with the irony of it all, to be able to enjoy that whole experience rather than just having a lemon lime bitters. And really, your flavours are extraordinary. Like that Builders Arms night that you had, the 5 drinks and 5 pairings, like mouth blown away. So good, boyos.
It's been quite interesting because we've done a couple of dinners now, and the way that people are like, I don't know if I'm okay to drive. And they're high on dopamine from socialization. And we've done this, and we've walked in, and at the end we tell people, you're like, hey, this just happened to you. And they're like, yeah, wow, you know. And we've done it in Australia. We've done it in New York now. And, you know, it's the same. It's like, it's social connection that is what you're chasing. It's not getting hammered.
Yeah.
And that's why moderation's really good, because you can go on, off. And you're like, I remember the evening. I remember the meal. I didn't say anything stupid, but I still was involved in giving good input rather than just talking smack.
Keep to yourself, Aaron. I don't have to be drinking. I'm still sports. Shit and saying the wrong thing.
But with your dignity, keeping your dignity a bit, Rich.
You know what? This is a really good, like, talking about flavour. You know, that's what we're all about, and this is a good opportunity to talk about alcohol and non-alcoholic as well. So, a lot of questions when we first started doing this, you know, a few years ago, a lot of people would say, "What's the point?" So, especially with distilled non-alcoholic spirits, what's the point, right? And I'll ask them, you know, you ask them a question about, well, why do they drink? And they're like, well, either to get drunk or whatever, right? So a lot of the time they say, well, we drink spirits to get drunk. And then I say, well, surely you only drink vodka. Shots of vodka has to be, because it's colourless, it's tasteless, and it gets you drunk, and that's why you drink alcohol. And they're like, nah. I like, I want an Aperol Spritz, or I want a espresso martini, or whatever it is. So I go, hang on. So you're telling me that if you're going to get drunk on alcohol, you want to like the taste of things? And they go, yes. So all of a sudden, why is that different for someone that's not drinking alcohol? If they're not drinking, why should they not expect something that tastes really good? And, that's having that conversation one-on-one with as many people as possible is what gets them to think differently. And that's what will get them to think, I'm going to make everyone at dinner is going to have a glass of wine. I sure as shit I'm going to now buy a bottle of non to make sure that those people who aren't drinking, or even if they're having a glass of something in between a glass of wine, they've got something that tastes great. They're not sitting there going, this is almost like that Riesling that I really liked, or this is nearly as good as the real thing. Like being compared to the real thing, I think is a real, like a tragedy, like imagine I said, hey guys, this was a great chat, but it's not as good as the real chat.
Yeah.
What?
I love all your analogies, Rish. I love them all.
And an example of that was, one of our business partners, it was his wedding 2 weeks ago, and obviously none was served. Wasn't an option. And it's liquid on lips. Just as many people as we can sample as possible. And
love that. Liquid on lips.
Liquid on lips.
I've heard hand in can. Can in hand. Liquid on lips. Like it.
Love it.
Yeah. And, so many people were like, actually, I can just stay here and enjoy this evening now, and I don't have to go and get hammered because you want something in your hand and you're talking to people that you don't know, and you're like, that ritual of that is like, gives you that 2 seconds to think of something else to say when the conversation's dying. You're like, okay, I'm back. Yeah, so it was like, there's a part of that in socialization as well, when you could be in a situation that you're not completely comfortable with as well. And that's when people get really hammered, work parties and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
And if you've got something exciting and fun, because we all love shiny new stuff, don't we? Like I said to Breezer before, we can walk into any bar. We know every alcoholic drink in that bar. We know the vodka, the gin, the Sambuca, everything. But this is such an exciting space, and I just love the. What do we call you guys? Is it a what is the name of you guys? Like, it's not a wine alternative, or how do you categorize non? This is what do we?
So this is Rish and I did an interview with Julia Bainbridge probably 4 weeks ago. Literally an hour on this, so we're not going to have time to cover it off.
Okay.
And during that call, I realised wine alternative is the current category language, and I think it's the wrong way around because of the way that we, as humans, process information, which I explained to myself and figured out on this interview, is that. And my example of that is that, let's say it's rock music, right? So they don't say rock alternative, they say alternative rock, or alternative jazz, or jazz. They don't say jazz alternative. And another important thing for this in this category is that they're not wines either. So Steve Jobs didn't call the iPod the Discman alternative. He came up with something. So this is a really... The question really is, when do people need a point to jump off from so they understand the serve, the occasion, when to have it, what to have it with, and when don't you need that anymore? When is a category developed? So that is probably the interesting question that I don't think I can answer. So to answer your actual question, I would say it's alternative wine.
Love that. I thank you for that little summary. I love these analogies you guys have got off back what Breezer said before.
They're so clever.
Yeah, so clever. You guys are deep thinkers. Just going back on what you said before, Rish, I had a DM from a bloke the other day. I was in, I'm seeing a lot of non-alcoholic, what are they called, little stands when I'm going through duty free for work, which is really exciting to see that. So yeah, tap into the duty free at airports. And I posted this the other day, and this bloke said, but why bother with non-alcoholic booze if the key is not to drink? So that's what you were talking about, Rish, before. And I was like, yeah, well, it's a great question. We get it quite often. It's all about the inclusion ritual ceremony, and it's fun to have a fancy drink that's not soft drink juice and you don't feel left out. But I'm going to add in there the flavour. Yeah, I never thought about the flavour.
Also, right. And this, we've talked about how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's
got goosebumps then?
It was
beautiful.
If I said you get to wear Princess Diana's dress, you're going to feel differently in that dress. Fact.
Yeah.
Now, no one knows that's Princess Diana's dress. No one's looking at you going, oh my God, that's, they're not saying that, but how you feel is what makes that special, right? So, which is why when I go out, I'm not parading around like, hey, I've got a glass of non and it cost me $15. But when I've got a glass of non at dinner, I'm like, well, yeah, I deserve. I work hard, and if I'm going to have something to eat and drink, or if I'm going to be treated like an adult, then this is how I'd be treated like an adult, And it makes me feel sophisticated. It makes me feel like an adult, basically. And if I'm on a night out and I get a sea dip and tonic, no one knows, do they? No one knows that it's a sea dip and tonic in that glass. And yeah, I paid $12 for it, but I don't care because I feel good about it, and I know that I like the taste of it. And I'm going to sip this the same as you're going to sip your boring vodka soda that tastes like nothing. Why would you have a better time than you? So
I did feel like I was having a massive flex when I was drinking that, walking around with a bottle of non. I've got a reel of it actually. I'll post it today. I felt so fancy.
And even a small detail at at the Builders Arms food pairing night we went to, even the glassware.
Oh,
every drink. I think our dessert wine, like the non-drink that we had with dessert, was like in a really nice short glass.
Yeah,
just that even that detail makes you feel a little bit special as well with the different glassware. So well done, boys. That was an awesome night.
Right.
Can you tell us, has your drinking changed over this whole non-journey? Have you you are moderators? Were you binged it? What did it look like before? What does it look like now?
I would say that I was not afraid of a drink prior to launching non. I think there's been times during non where I've not been afraid of a drink to try to survive. So I have wet months and I have dry months, I think. And
like the top end of Australia, dry wet season.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of similar, actually. I think that I would like more products like non because I think it's kind of hard to enjoy your own thing. I've always struggled with that with all of my products that I make. If I had a beard balm that smells like work, if I had a shampoo, I smell like work. And even when I was doing DJing and music and stuff, I didn't listen to music during the week because I had to listen to so much on the weekend, so I can't enjoy it. So that's just a thing personally for me. But I think what's been more interesting is that I didn't even know what a vermouth was, and also wine regions. And I've actually learned a lot about drinks in general, and then more so flavor and its quality over quantity now for me. So it's like, if I'm going to have something, it's going to be really good, and I'm going to savor the flavor, pardon the pun. So that's how my drinking's changed, and I kind of don't like degustations anymore. I'd rather just go get a banh mi. I don't know why.
Degustation out.
Yeah.
Overdid it. What about you, Rish?
Even so, I played rugby growing up, and I played it quite seriously. So we were randomly drug tested. We couldn't go out on Friday and Saturday nights really. And then when I went to uni, I guess it was a similar thing. I've never really been mad into drinking. Working in a bar when you're 17, 18 years old, you look around and you just think, I don't want to do that all the time. So yeah, I still went to an English uni, and I don't know how much you know about English unis, but they're absolutely mental.
Yeah, I do.
But we used to go pretty mental at uni, and we had a great time. But I was also easy for me to stop drinking for a couple of weeks or months. And then when I got into the booze world officially in the brand side, my brother and I started running marathons just to get people off of our cases. So we take Jan, Feb, March off, train for a marathon, run the marathon in April, just so that we can just not have people ask us, oh, why aren't you drinking? We'd be like, well, because we're running a marathon. They go, oh, okay. And then now it's just like, why are you not drinking? I'm like, because I don't want to. And they're like, if they call me boring, then I'll just say to them, well, I don't need a drink to be charismatic. You do, so who's it?
I love that.
So, yeah, I guess, it's just like it used to be fairly chill and you don't really talk about it. I'm not drinking. And it was a bit taboo. Now it's like, I don't fancy it. But the good thing is, if you say you don't fancy it, people, especially in my circles, no one bats an eyelid.
Yeah.
No one questions whether you're drinking. No one says why. They just go, well, do you want a glass of non or a sea dip or a heaps normal? Like, what do you want instead? And I guess that's culture. And that's because I've been banging that culture drum for a long time with my inner circles. And then that starts to spread out and out and out. And what's really funny, we went for dinner like 9 months ago where one of our friends was, she wasn't drinking. And no one asked her why. We just got her another drink. She was pregnant, but she didn't want to say anything. But that didn't even cross our minds that she was pregnant because we wouldn't ask someone why they're not drinking. It's not part of the culture that we exist in.
Hallelujah.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So good. So good. So the support or lack of support and the pushback, what's it been like from the start, from family or friends delving into this space? Like, what's the pushback? And then has it, well, obviously you've kind of touched on it there, Rish, that changed. But for you, Aaron, when you first started, were people like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, my nearest and dearest, Miranda, it was for her, it was her that opened this up. So
somebody give me a love story where someone's going to make a non-alcoholic drink for me and I'll love you forever. What a story. Oh my God. Sorry.
Just make sure they use real ingredients, not Flavor House.
Yeah. Hey, listen out, boys.
Xylitol. No xylitol. Anyway, we digress.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
of course, it was easy. Did she think I was an idiot? Did she think I was wasting my money as usual? Yes, of course. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, trust me, this is a good idea. And she's like, I don't trust you, but sure, go with it. So there was that. And then, my friends would say, well, they still say it. They're like, oh, how's it going down at the cordial factory? I'm just like, oh, come on, guys, give me a break. So,
Rich.
But my friends, it's like, if you're not, giving each other a hard time, you're not really friends.
Yeah.
So there's proper
fair play,
sort of proper Australian sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So look, overall, everyone's like, it sounds kind of stupid. What are you doing? But then we've had a lot of success and helped a lot of people. And people are like, hey, credit to you, man. Like, you're right. We were wrong. No one said that and admitted it, but I know they're thinking it.
That's unreal, especially because I would imagine back in like 2017, like I had only discovered non-alcoholic drink for like 18 months ago. I didn't know that was a thing. So back then you'd be like, what the actual are you talking about?
Yeah, when we first launched Seedlip, we got a lot of people used to get quite angry at us. Like people storm up to us at a trade show and say, you can't do this. Like, how can you have a non-alcoholic spirit, So when talking about the category, we've got a lot of pushback early doors. And I guess with non, the best thing about non, like the hardest thing about non is it's doing something so unique. So being able to articulate what we're doing, which is so different, that's really challenging. And getting consumers to understand that it's real ingredients made by chefs in a custom-built facility, right? So we're doing the whole Seedlip thing all over again for the wine glass, for the non-alcohol wine glass. So my circles are like, you've done it before.
Yeah, they're used to it. Here he goes again.
At the same time, it is more of a challenging proposition because there is no like for like. There's nothing that's there actually is. Like if you think about these, like like pet nats or like natural, organic, funky wines and stuff, they kind of exist because they're all about flavor. They're crown cap and they're exciting, kind of unique. And that's, I guess, similar to what we're doing. It's all about flavor, crown cap, and it's unique. But even that category of pet natty wines and stuff, that's not huge. So if we're trying to target those drinkers, then it's a tiny population. And who we're targeting, as Aaron said, is 78% of the demographic who moderate.
Yeah. And obviously, you touched on before, Aaron, the American market is bloody huge. Can you tell us a bit about that? What you've been doing, how you tap into that? What's the plan?
So it's huge, but it hasn't kicked off yet. Australia is far more developed non-alcoholically than the US, which was mind-blowing.
Overall, in the overall category.
Yeah, so I was really surprised when we went there in January. The UK is probably the most developed. Australia would be second, I would say, in terms of, platinum markets, if you will. And then the US will go, and it'll go soon, and it'll go very quickly. And we've launched at pretty much the right time. But what I also realized was that non created an option for restaurants to actually serve. You don't see de-alcoholized products generally in restaurants, not in the good ones, because they don't go with food. You can't. They don't have the drinkability. So while we solved the wine glass, and then Heaps Normal came in and solved the beer, and then Sea Lip already had the cocktail. So the venues that do the best in Australia have a non-alc list. They're not buried in the wine list. The beers aren't buried in the beer list. They're actually all just grouped together, and they sell a lot of non-alc because it's easy for people to find. And also, having your menus updated online is becoming so important because you will lose a whole table of 8 people now if you don't offer one person non-alc, because they'll go somewhere else. It's the exact same thing that happened with vegan and vegetarians. To think now that maybe 5 years ago, you go, do you have any vegan options? Like, nah, go down the road, you hippie. That's kind of where non-alc's at the moment. And America, for me personally, and I could have some bias on this, they need not, and we need to go and help people and solve the non-alc programs. So, we're having good success and degustations there in LA at the moment. Maud and Gwen, which is Curtis Stone's restaurants, just put all of them on. Kelly, which is Michelin stars, just put them all on. Nice. And then, it's again, they needed this product to make their life easier. We save restaurants a lot of money on labor costs as well. So it's just, again, conversations and saying the same thing over and over again, repeating yourself, but it will get there and it will land. So that is my perception of the American landscape at this stage, but it's about to absolutely roar off. In terms of the products that are there are more products there. There are more people around the world that will go to the States. So there's a lot more options there as well. And a lot of those options probably won't come to Australia, I would think. So the wine alternative category in the US has probably 5 products in it at this stage. And there's probably another 2 sitting outside in the UK at the moment. We kicked the whole thing off. So I started it all. And then there's more people coming in and going, okay, this is the way to do it. This is how to give people flavour and experience.
And you obviously use your contacts onshore to then tap into that market in America.
So we import the product ourselves into America. So we make it all here and then we ship it all over. We have a warehouse in California and we have one in New York as well. We have they're called brand ambassadors or a sales rep based in LA, which is our California one, Ruby. We're looking to hire someone in New York at the moment as well. And then basically each state in the States could be as big could be as big as Australia itself. So
amazing.
And they all have different laws. So it's a real minefield there. So in New York, for example, they still have a prohibition law in place that if you have a liquor license or a wine and spirits license, you can't sell anything non-alcoholic. So you can't buy your mixer or water from there. You have to go to a supermarket down the road. But in New Jersey, across the bridge, you're all good. You can sell the mixers and the alcohol and everything together. LA doesn't have the same rules. It's a minefield.
Oh my God.
And
it's very large.
Have you learnt this as you've gone along? It's trial and error?
We just put product in, got distributors, and they're like, yeah, you can't do this and you can't do this. So, you can, New York, you can sell in, basically your only off-premise route to market is Whole Foods. It's like, great, that's massive. And we're not ready for that yet. So does that mean that we don't get to play in that space? There's a lot of strategy and things, and we make it all here and we ship it up. It takes 3 months to get there.
Wow,
it's huge.
Into warehouse, into distributors. So there's a lot of logistics that is going on that we're figuring out. We're just tiptoeing into it, but the interest now is becoming really, really high and really, really strong now that we're in there.
My background is like commercial, so basically working on sales. I've never really had to worry about production. So I guess like the big challenge for me coming into this was there's a production element, then there's a supply element, then there's the sales element. And if you ever hear someone go, oh yeah, we can just make a shitload more and get it over there, it's not real. It's just a concentrate basically, and they're just spilling it with water and then sending it out. So what we're having to do is like really, really challenging, and there's so many elements to what we do to make it successful.
Premium product.
And even the temperature, like when it's in transit, all that would obviously come into play as well. Is your primary target over in America restaurants then, Aaron, would you say? Is that we're
building a brand, and we have a solution for restaurants. And it is definitely a competitive advantage that we have against some of our competitors there, because the flavour is not there. It's as simple as that. And the reason why is that if you go to any flavour house and you say, hey, we want a raspberry flavour, we've spoken to these people and said, hey, do what we're doing. And they can't even get close, because the raspberry flavour is a group of people sitting around. They've been paid $100 each. They've got the free M&Ms in a research group, and they're like, the raspberry flavour that they want is the candy raspberry flavour that's inside a block of Cadbury's, or it's a raspberry icy pole flavour or a soft drink or those sorts of things. They're the flavours that exist. So even if you went down that route, you have to get something like a lot of R&D and custom blends done to actually get genuinely pinpoint flavour on it, which you can't get from chemicals, because the flavours are chemicals. So they could say natural flavours, but they've been extracted with chemicals and all sorts of stuff. And, there's new research coming out about erythritol, giving you strokes and cancer and all sorts of stuff, all these things that are low-cal that are meant to be good for you. Again, you still don't know. And a chemist I used to work with he was like, the cosmetics thing goes through the no nasties to like free from this and free from that. Like, oh no, we don't like that anymore, so we're free from this now, and that's kind of how marketing works. And they just go and create this new thing that's bad for you. And he was like, he always used to get up and about ammonia. He goes, it's basically ammonia we'd known in the 50s. We know it works. We know it's safe. And we know exactly the critical limits of where the consumption of it can be. But then what happens is they go, no, someone in marketing goes, we don't like ammonia anymore, and we're free from ammonia. So what they do is they use something that acts like ammonia, does all the same things, and it's just like volatile sister that you don't know what's going on. And then eventually it gets banned, and they make another version of it, and it gets banned. And this is what all these natural sweeteners and things are. We know what sugar is. We know how it works. It's natural. It comes from a plant, and that's it, right? Limit your consumption, moderate your sugar intake, just be intelligent about it. So that's kind of, that's an interesting point.
The education piece is really important. If you're talking about raspberries, and you're right, like marketing, I hate marketing, right? Because marketing years ago turned around and went raspberries, red, sweet, sugary, right? if you actually eat a raspberry, it's not that sweet. It's actually quite tart. It's sour. But marketing made that so, as a child, you think it's going to be a bright red, sweet thing. So with our salted raspberry and chamomile, it's our biggest seller. We have to take people on the journey and go, this isn't going to be that candied sweetness that you think about when you're 4 years old. This is real raspberries, real ingredients, and real raspberries are not sweet and bright like you're taught when you're a child. So that the education piece is massive for us, and talking about real ingredients is something that no one else is doing because no one else is using it.
It's a massive point of difference, boys. Massive.
Yeah, it is. And you can taste that when you drink it. It feels, well, it is. It's real. It's natural. It doesn't have that sugary, yucky, artificial acetate. Yeah, chemically taste it. And it feels like you're putting something good in your body, not something, poisonous or, So then you've kind of touched on it. You've given us so many nuggets to learn. So many. What's something surprising that you've learned in this whole process or want the public to know about non?
Oh, God. I don't know. You go, Rich.
Where do you start?
I know. Big question.
It's so easy for me. It's just that it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. Like, if we go back to that, it's education, right? So if we go back to that time where we had people coming up to us going, you can't make non-alcoholic spirits. I used to hit them with one question. Do you know how an alcoholic spirit is made? And they'd be stumped, right? Education. So they say, well, spirits is just alcohol. And you go, yeah, but you don't just crack open a tree and start getting vodka out of it. That's not what happens, right? So where does this come from? And once you can educate people on what an alcoholic spirit is, then you can educate them on what a non-alcoholic spirit is, right? What we're doing, once we can educate people on how we're making something really unique with real ingredients, that's when they can realize, okay, so this is a Michelin star chef made drink, not a fast food drink.
Another bloody cracking analogy. I'm here for the analogies. Yeah, they make sense. They make sense.
Yeah.
And I think from my point of view, it's like you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
Someone in LA asked me, they're like, oh, why didn't you just eat alcoholized wine? And I'm like, well, look, if you buy a Chevy and put a Mercedes steering wheel on it, is it a Chevy or a Mercedes? It doesn't, you're just faking it, right? So for me, that was really important. And, it's just like when you're making your consumption choices, it's like, think about all the time you would buy a $10 or $15 a bottle of wine and, maybe you enjoy them. I don't know. But for me, they're a cooking wine. That's what they're used for. And then if I want to buy something that's $30 plus for a bottle of wine. So it's like, why is non-alc treated differently? Ethanol is so cheap, like super cheap. It costs nothing. It's everywhere. So look, I think, just think about where your dollars are going and what does $5 really mean? Because you don't think about it when you get your avocado on toast. You don't think about it when you get your burger at a cafe, which is like $25. You don't think about it. Like, why do you think about it in that moment? Because you're actually just there to enjoy that experience and just go for it. And you're not worried about the bill. So that would be my advice to people.
I'm sitting here rattling my head going, where can I get a bottle of non tonight in Bendigo?
I know.
I can drink it at home tonight.
You can go to Mackenzie Quarters or the dispensary.
Brilliant. Both cracking venues, actually. Both
I love
cracking venues.
But I also finishing this, I used to be really polite about like the fake version brands. And now I'm at a stage where I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, if you're making like a de-alcoholized version of something and it doesn't taste exactly the same as the alcoholized version, you failed. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
If you can't make it exactly the same, then you're almost like the real thing. That's not, you haven't succeeded. That's why I've just gone, so much more liberating, to be honest, about how I feel about it and what non's doing, what things like sober, like what sober are doing. They're doing it differently. They're thinking differently. Brilliant, What Secret did, there's like Three Spirit in the US and the UK. There's some other great products and great brands that are thinking differently, and it's far more difficult to think differently rather than think, well, we'll just make, vegan meat. We'll just make it look and taste like meat. But I'm like, nah, that's not what I want. I want my own unique vegan experience. So
yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, we're here for it. Non is definitely an experience, that is for sure. We're just getting on to a bit of this or that, a bit of silly. We're just going to – actually, before we go into this little silly section, guys, is there anything that you wanted to add as well?
I'm going to give a shout out to our mutual friend, Anthony Hammond. He's a lovely man. And also mention you've got the scoop. World first, the Non-8 will be at Pub With No Booze for the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival for the first time ever. And anyone that goes there will be trying it for the first time ever before it's released in October. So it's still 6 months away.
Exciting. I've got goosebumps. That's amazing.
So I just want to give Anthony and his brilliant mind and ideas a plug. We'll obviously be there for all of us, and encouraging anyone else to come down that wants to try Non-8.
Incredible.
The link, it will be in our show notes on how to get tickets.
Yeah, or in our bio, which is the 29th of March, isn't it? Yeah, amazing. Actually, just a quick question. How did that relationship start with you guys, with Anthony?
He reached out, I think, to pitch the Pub With No Booze. Like, we were still in Moorabbin at our old site then.
I'd been into the Builder's Arms a few times as well.
Okay.
Then I kind of come across him, and I kind of got a bit friendly with him, and we had some stakeholders in town, and I kind of was messaging him and calling him on the side like, mate, come and have a drink with us at Marion. So then he came in, and then they had the Pub With No Booze, and then we did the dinner at Builder's Arms for Dry July, and the relationship's really just escalated. Yeah.
Well, in fact, the first conversation we had in this space, he was raving about you guys.
Yes,
like that was the first non-alc drink that he'd mentioned. So you're solid from the start.
The first time that I think I met him properly was there was a non-alcoholic tasting the first weekend that the restrictions opened up in Australia in November 2021. And I went down there to host. It was Non-Liars and Heaps Normal, and then another few that no one turned up from the bands. But that's the first time I properly got to present. And then Anthony was just like, "This is awesome, really loved it. There's going to be plenty more we can do." And then after that, boom, 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 we really started to snowball. Yeah, but that was November 2021.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this space. So a little bit of this or that. So just a funny little quick questions. We had a little deep dive in your Instagrams, and you love chips. So are they chips or fries?
I'm all potato, whatever shape, format, potato cake, mashed potato. I can't eat the same thing 2 days in a row, but I can eat potatoes every single day, maybe multiple meals. So all potatoes, doesn't matter. I'm not discriminatory towards potatoes.
But do you call?
I got enough flavour in my life. I need potatoes to balance me out.
Bring it down. Are they chips or fries though? What are you calling them? If you have chips.
Chips.
Chips
and crisps.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Rich. They're crisps in the UK, aren't they? Is the sauce or aioli going on the side or on top? Are you dipping, double dipping?
Side.
I'm going side as well. And also, interestingly, we don't have aioli in the UK. We just have
just ketchup.
Ketchup and mayo. We don't have mayo.
Oh, mayo, yeah.
Don't have garlic.
You love the mayo, don't you, on your chips?
I love that. Have you got a doona or a duvet?
Doona.
Duvet.
Is it a zucchini or a courgette?
Zucchini.
Courgette.
And you're well-travelled. You love a big travel. So would you take a 10-hour road trip or a 1.5-hour, 2-hour flight, and why?
Flight.
Get there.
Flight, yeah.
Yeah. I hate being in the car.
We just haven't got just don't have any time. You know what? It's the time. My cousin's getting married, and I basically said I can put all my money in everything I can get there. I just don't have the actual time to spend at this wedding for that long. So
yeah, in and out.
Just see the vows, then peel off.
Well, guys, we've just got one last question. We want a recommendation of the week from you. Tell us something that's brought you joy this week. It can be anything and anything you just want to recommend to our listeners.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
Potatoes.
I had potatoes yesterday at the Marion, and I'm going to suggest the Marion Wine Bar on Gertrude Street.
Okay, I'm going straight there today.
It's very good. It's very, very good. Part of the Trader House group, so the McConnell group.
Okay, good.
Kind of can't go wrong. And just Gertrude Street in general. Gertrude Street's great. So
yeah,
that brought me joy. I had another couple of shops I had to hit, so it was a nice little couple of hours there. I'm going to say Gertrude Street.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gertrude Street. Thank you. In Melbourne, Australia, that is for our overseas listeners. Yeah. And what about you, Rish?
And what is this? Anything that's brought us joy?
For you personally, can be anything.
Well, I was in Adelaide for the first time over the weekend.
Oh, great!
And I was the MC for my mate getting married. So that just seeing them get married, I think, it's great. It's just so warming, isn't it? It's just nice to see two people with all the people that they love around them. That really made me happy. So that's
not bad.
Oh, that's a great record. Go to a wedding. Go to a wedding.
It always gets you up and about. There's so much love at a wedding. Actually, I just had one more question. Cheryl, is Cheryl a human? Your cat?
No, Cheryl's a cat.
And you're a twin, Rish. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, and Fran's the other cat.
Oh, Miss Fran, sorry. I didn't know. Are they twins? Are they twins? The cats?
No, they had each other too. I'd say they're barely siblings.
And Rish, you're a twin. Who's older?
Yeah, I'm 5 minutes older. He's not a cat.
He's not a cat. Oh, we have so enjoyed this chat and such an amazing insight into Non. Oh, the last question I had, who came up with the name Non? Four questions. How did the name Non come about?
There was about 10 in the ring, and I was definitely swaying another way I think actually one of the names was Another Way. And I put it through just like this brain dump during Christmas, and the design agency they were using, they were like, go with the name Non. And I remember having like an absolute meltdown about it. I was like, I don't know about this. It was like shit. And then I spoke to some lawyers, like, oh, it's going to be pretty hard to trademark, and I was like, I'll show you. So then I ended up choosing Non. Got the trademark through and have one of the strongest trademarks in the world, all around the world. So go Non.
Yeah.
But it's been good because I had to get pulled back into line and focus, but there was definitely like owning non-alcoholic, doing what we do, which maybe one day, but right now we've got to solve the wine glass and occasion, so we're very much focused and dedicated to doing that for now.
And you're doing it like an absolute boss. We're
you really
fans.
are.
Massive fans. And even more so after listening to the whole story that sits behind Non.
I know. Most people go out and get matching tattoos, but no. Aaron's gone and made Miranda an alternative wine drink that's taking over the world. I love it.
Now putting food on their table.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone needs to get Non in their life, and you'll find it. Where do we find you guys?
How can we lots. Just check our stockist on our website.
Yeah. We'll put that.
You can type your postcode in and find the nearest place. We update it monthly. So
brilliant.
Amazing.
Unreal.
Yeah, and you'll find
it. And if not, just walk into all your local places and ask for it until they order it.
Yeah,
that'd be helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
The OGs are like P&V in Sydney, Black Arts and Sparrows in Victoria, Sans Drinks Online. There's so many more. as well.
Yeah, amazing job. Taking over the world. We can't wait to see it everywhere.
So good. So good.
Thanks for having us, guys. Really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming on.
It was worth
Love
the
you
wait,
guys.
I think.
Yeah.
5 side it was. So thank you.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time.
This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Eric Ladd.
We love you, Eric.